I was about to destroy my life for a man I'd only served twice. My breath caught as I leaned in close enough to smell his cologne, something dark and expensive that probably cost more than my mother's monthly medication. The chandelier light glinted off the tattoos creeping up his neck as I pressed my lips near his ear. "Your penthouse is surrounded." She gave them the code. From across the table, Nadia's blue eyes flickered toward me for half a second before returning to her phone, her champagne-glossed smile never faltering. Behind Village Jacobsen, Copenhagen's harbor lights shimmered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, a view reserved for people whose lives mattered more than mine. "Can I get you anything else this evening?" I asked, straightening, my voice steady even as my hands trembled against the leather menu holder. Village didn't move, didn't react, just lifted his wine glass and took a slow sip like I'd told him the specials, not that the woman he loved had just sold him to his enemies. 22 minutes earlier, I'd been hiding in the staff bathroom, the small one near the wine cellar where management didn't install cameras. My phone screen illuminated the cramped space as I checked my mother's care facility bill for the third time that shift, trying to figure out which part of my soul I'd sell next to cover it. Then the door to the main ladies' room next door swung open. Heels clicked across marble, sharp, deliberate, the kind that announced wealth before the woman wearing them even spoke. Through the thin wall, I heard water running. Then her voice, low and careful, speaking Danish with that cultivated accent that screamed old money and private schools. "Ja, he's here now. The penthouse security system. I sent you the code this morning." My thumb froze mid-scroll. "The tactical team has the entry sequence. They breach at midnight. 23 minutes from now." The faucet shut off. Silence pressed against my eardrums like water pressure. I pulled my feet up onto the toilet seat, making myself smaller, invisible. "He trusts me completely." A pause, then a soft laugh that made my skin crawl. "No, he has no idea. By the time he realizes, it'll be over." She switched to Russian then. I recognized the rhythm even if I couldn't understand the words. Harder, faster, like she was confirming kill orders in a language she thought no one here would comprehend. The door opened. Closed. Her heels clicked away toward the dining room. I sat there for another 30 seconds, heart hammering, before I unlocked the door and stepped out into the hallway. The marble walls seemed to close in, the classical music from the dining room suddenly too loud, too bright. By the time I returned to the floor, my section had been reassigned. The hostess directed me to table 7, the corner booth where Village Jacobsen sat with Nadia Olsen, Denmark's golden power couple, according to every tabloid in Scandinavia. He didn't look like the monster the newspapers described. Tailored suit, sharp jawline, eyes that tracked movement like a predator tracking prey. The tattoos were visible tonight, dark ink crawling up from his collar, disappearing beneath perfectly pressed fabric. His watch caught the light when he reached for his wine. I recognized it from a magazine spread I'd seen once. Cost more than most people's cars. Nadia sat across from him, scrolling her phone with manicured nails, smiling at something on the screen. She wore white, silk that probably required dry cleaning more expensive than my rent. Her hair fell in perfect blonde waves that looked effortless, but definitely weren't. I'd served them before. Once, maybe twice. He never looked at servers. She always sent her food back. One at the bar nursing the same vodka tonic for 40 minutes, I noted as I approached their table. 2 more near the kitchen door pretending to wait for the restroom. And the woman in the corner booth alone, watching this table in the mirrored wall. The pieces were all there, arranged like chess pieces by someone who thought she was cleverer than everyone else in the room. When I reached their table, Village was reviewing the wine menu, his fingers drumming once against the leather cover, the only sign of impatience I'd ever seen from him. "Good evening," I said, my voice not quite steady. "Have you decided on dessert?" That's when I said it. Leaned in. Whispered the words that would either save his life or end mine. He went very still. Not the freeze of panic, but something colder. Controlled. Like a blade being drawn slowly from its sheath. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, and his eyes, those dark, unreadable eyes, finally lifted to meet mine. "Is something wrong?" Nadia asked, her voice honeyed with false concern, her hand reaching across the table toward his. The diamond on her finger caught the chandelier light, throwing tiny rainbows across the white tablecloth. Vilad's gaze held mine for 3 seconds that felt like 3 hours. Then he smiled. Not at her. At me. "Nothing's wrong," he said quietly, his Danish accent making each word sound like a verdict. "In fact, I think everything is exactly as it should be." He set down his wine glass with deliberate precision and stood, buttoning his suit jacket with practiced ease. "I need to make a call," he told Nadia, kissing her forehead in a gesture that would have looked tender if I didn't know what I knew. "Order whatever you like. I'll be right back." He walked toward the private dining rooms in the back, past the bar where the man in the gray suit was suddenly very interested in his phone, past the kitchen entrance where 2 men in expensive casual wear shifted their weight. And I stood there, menu still clutched in my shaking hands, realizing I'd just set something in motion that I couldn't stop. Nadia's eyes found mine across the table. For just a second, her perfect smile faltered. She knew. Somehow, she knew I'd heard. My phone buzzed in my apron pocket. I pulled it out with trembling fingers. Unknown number. The text was simple. "Your mother's facility. Room 304. She looks peaceful when she sleeps." My blood turned to ice. Midnight arrived like an execution. I was in the kitchen when the first radio call came through, something about a situation at the Jacobson penthouse in Orestad. The head chef swore in Danish, and the sous chef's face went pale. Through the porthole window in the kitchen door, I could see table 7. Empty. Both of them gone. But the man at the bar was standing now, one hand inside his jacket. The 2 near the kitchen entrance had abandoned any pretense of waiting, moving with synchronized precision toward the private dining room where Villads had disappeared. A waiter burst through the door, breathless. "Police lockdown. No one leaves the building." My hands went numb. I'd warned him. He'd left. That should have been enough. But Nadia's phone glowed on the table, abandoned in her haste. And I knew that this wasn't over. It was just beginning. I wasn't supposed to be in the staff bathroom during peak service, but my manager had scheduled me for a double shift and my feet were screaming. Just 5 minutes. That's all I needed. The cramped space smelled like industrial cleaner and desperation, every surface scrubbed sterile except for the graffiti someone had carved into the door years ago. I sat on the closed toilet lid, shoes off, scrolling through my phone with my mother's care facility bill glowing accusingly on the screen. 4,000 kroner overdue. Another 2,000 due in 6 days. The numbers blurred as I blinked back the burning in my eyes. I had exactly 300 kroner in my account and half a shift left to pretend everything was fine. Then the door to the main ladies' room swung open. Through the thin wall separating the staff bathroom from the guest facilities, I heard heels strike marble with the confidence of someone who'd never worried about money a day in her life. Sharp, deliberate clicks that echoed in that cavernous space designed to make wealthy women feel like royalty while they touched up their lipstick. The water ran. I should have put my shoes back on and returned to work, but something about the silence that followed made me freeze. "Ja, he's here now." Her voice was low, controlled, speaking Danish with that polished accent that came from international schools and summer homes in the Hamptons. "The penthouse security system. I sent you the code this morning." My thumb stopped mid-scroll. "The tactical team has the entry sequence. They breach at midnight. 23 minutes from now." Every muscle in my body locked. I pulled my feet up slowly onto the toilet seat, making myself smaller, younger, invisible, the same way I used to hide when bill collectors came to our apartment before my father left. The faucet shut off. In the silence, I could hear my own heartbeat, too loud, too fast. "He trusts me completely." A pause, then a laugh that sounded like glass breaking in slow motion. "No, he has no idea. By the time he realizes what's happening, The police will have him in custody and his assets frozen. The syndicate will move in before dawn. She switched languages, then Russian, I thought, though I couldn't be sure. The rhythm changed, became sharper, more clinical. Words I couldn't understand but recognized as someone confirming details of something terrible. Numbers. Times. Positions. I sat paralyzed, afraid to breathe, afraid the sound of my lungs expanding would somehow carry through the wall and give me away. My phone screen had gone dark in my hands. I didn't dare move to reactivate it. The conversation ended with a sentence in Danish that made my stomach drop. After tonight, everything he built will be ours. The door opened. Those confident heels clicked away, fading down the corridor toward the dining room where crystal chandeliers and champagne and people who mattered were waiting. I stayed frozen for another 30 seconds, counting my heartbeats, before I finally unlocked the stall door and stepped out on shaking legs. In the mirror, my reflection looked pale, terrified, small in my server's uniform. I had 20 minutes to decide if I was going to do something monumentally stupid. By the time I pushed through the kitchen doors back into the dining room, my hands were shaking so badly I had to clasp them behind my back. The maitre d' redirected me with a sharp gesture. Table 7 needed attention. The corner booth. The one with the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor. Of course it was them. Villits Jacobson sat with his back to the wall, the way men who expect violence always do. His suit was charcoal gray, expensive enough that I could see the quality from across the room. Tattoos crept up his neck from beneath his collar, dark ink that the newspapers loved to photograph, proof that money couldn't quite erase where he'd come from. His watch caught the light when he reached for his wine glass, and I recognized it from a magazine I'd flipped through in a dentist's office once. 60,000 euros. Maybe more. Across from him, Nadia Olsen smiled at something on her phone, blonde hair falling in perfect waves over white silk. She looked like every other wealthy woman who'd ever sent back a dish, because the garnish wasn't Instagram-worthy. Beautiful. Untouchable. Lethal. I'd served them twice before. He never acknowledged servers existed. She always complained. As I approached, I cataloged the room with new eyes. The man at the bar nursing the same vodka tonic he'd ordered 40 minutes ago, his eyes tracking movement in the mirrored wall behind the bottles. Two men near the kitchen entrance pretending to wait for the restroom, but their shoulders were too tense, their positions too calculated. A woman alone in the corner booth, watching Table 7's reflection in the window glass. They were all here. All in position. Just like she'd said. 18 minutes until midnight. Good evening, I said, my voice barely steady as I reached their table. Have you decided on dessert, or can I bring you anything else? Villits didn't look up from the wine menu. His fingers drummed once against the leather, the only sign of impatience I'd ever seen from him. This was insane. I should walk away. Serve the dessert, collect my tips, go home to my suffocating apartment and my mother's medication bills and pretend I'd heard nothing. But I thought about that laugh. He has no idea. I leaned in, close enough to smell his cologne, something dark and expensive that probably cost more than my rent. Close enough to see the small scar above his eyebrow that no amount of wealth could erase. Your penthouse is surrounded, I whispered, my lips nearly brushing his ear. She gave them the code. He went absolutely still. Not shock. Something colder. More dangerous. Like a blade being unsheathed in complete silence. Is something wrong? Nadia asked, her voice honeyed with false concern, looking up from her phone with those crystalline blue eyes. Villits lifted his gaze to mine. His eyes were darker than they appeared in photographs, almost black, framed by lashes that seemed impossible on a man who'd reportedly killed 3 people before his 20th birthday. Nothing's wrong, he said quietly, each word deliberate. In fact, I think everything is exactly as it should be. He stood, buttoning his jacket with practiced ease, and kissed Nadia's forehead, a gesture that would have looked tender if I didn't know what I knew. I need to make a call. Order whatever you like. He walked toward the private dining rooms, past the man at the bar whose hand moved inside his jacket. And I stood there, menu clutched in trembling hands, realizing I'd just destroyed my life to save a stranger's. The news broke across the restaurant like a shockwave at 12:04 a.m. I was in the kitchen when it happened, scraping uneaten risotto into the compost bin with hands that still hadn't stopped shaking. The head chef's phone buzzed first, then the sous chef's, then the manager's, a cascade of alerts that made everyone freeze mid-motion. Politi har stormet en ledgelid I Orestad, someone said, reading from their screen. Police have stormed an apartment in Orestad. The manager's face went pale. Which apartment? The Jacobson penthouse. The kitchen erupted. Servers clustered around phones, dishwashers abandoning their stations, everyone trying to glimpse the breaking news footage. I pushed through to see a screen showing helicopter shots of the glass tower in Orestad, its top floor blazing with searchlights. Black-clad tactical officers swarmed the building like ants on a carcass. The news anchor's voice was breathless with excitement. Police confirmed they breached the residence of alleged crime boss Village Jacobson at precisely midnight following an anonymous tip. Sources say the operation was planned for weeks. My stomach dropped. The anonymous tip. That was Nadia's insurance. Make it look like the authorities had been building a case all along, not that she'd handed them everything wrapped in a bow. The footage cut to the penthouse interior. Shattered glass. Overturned furniture. Tactical officers searching rooms with military precision, their weapons drawn, movements coordinated. Empty rooms. Jacobson was not found at the scene, the anchor continued, barely hiding her disappointment. Police are expanding their search across Copenhagen. His vehicle was located in the building's garage, suggesting he may have fled on foot. The camera panned across the living room, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, modern furniture that probably cost more than I'd earn in 5 years, abstract art on walls now marked with boot prints. They showed the security panel by the door, its screen displaying access granted in cold blue letters. Someone had opened the door from the inside. Someone with the code. Through the kitchen porthole, I could see the dining room. Table 7 was empty now. Both chairs pushed back at odd angles, Nadia's champagne glass still half full, catching the light like liquid gold. Then the news cut to footage from outside the restaurant. My heart stopped. Nadia stood on the sidewalk surrounded by police officers, wrapped in someone's coat despite the mild evening. Her mascara was smeared artfully down her cheeks. Her hair, that perfect blonde hair, was disheveled just enough to look authentically distressed. She clutched a tissue in one trembling hand while speaking to a detective who was nodding sympathetically. The performance was flawless. I had no idea she was saying, her voice breaking at exactly the right moments. He told me he had a business call. When he didn't come back, I got worried. I tried calling him, but his phone was off. Then the police arrived and told me. She dissolved into sobs that looked completely genuine. The detective patted her shoulder. Ms. Olsen, you're not under investigation. We believe you may also be a victim here. A victim. I watched her accept comfort from the officers, watched her dab at tears that I knew were calculated down to the last drop. She was selling it perfectly, the naive girlfriend, the beautiful woman who'd trusted the wrong man, the innocent bystander caught in a criminal's web. And everyone was buying it. My phone buzzed in my apron pocket. Unknown number. The text was simple, your mother. Room 304. Pretty flowers by her bed. Would be a shame if something happened. I didn't go home after my shift ended at 2 a.m. I walked instead, taking side streets and doubling back 3 times, watching reflections in shop windows for anyone following. The text about my mother burned in my pocket like a live coal. By the time I reached my apartment building in Norrebro, dawn was bleeding gray light across the sky. The elevator was broken again, so I climbed 4 flights of stairs that smelled like curry and cigarette smoke, my feet screaming in my server shoes. I unlocked my door and knew immediately something was wrong. The apartment was dark, but not empty dark. Occupy dark. The The kind of silence that has weight to it, breath behind it. Close the door, a voice said from my living room. Calm. Controlled. Danish accent that turned each word into a command. My hand found the light switch. The cheap overhead bulb flickered on, revealing Village Jacobson sitting on my second-hand sofa like he owned it. Like he owned everything. His suit jacket was gone, his white shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows, exposing more of those dark tattoos that crawled up his forearms. A gun rested on his thigh, casual, almost an afterthought. How did you? Your manager keeps employee records in an unlocked filing cabinet. He gestured to the chair across from him. Sit. I should have run. Should have screamed. Instead, I closed the door and sat, because men like Village Jacobson didn't break into your apartment at dawn to kill you. They did that in alleys. In cars. In places where screaming didn't matter. You saved my life, he said, studying me with those impossibly dark eyes. I wanted to thank you in person. You're welcome. You can leave now. His mouth twitched, not quite a smile. I also wanted to explain what you've done. The way he said it made my stomach drop. When you warned me, you were seen. Security footage from the restaurant shows you leaning close, whispering. Nadia noticed. Her associates noticed. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. They know you're the reason I wasn't in that penthouse when the police breached. They know you heard something you shouldn't have. The text about my mother suddenly made horrible sense. The Eastern European syndicate doesn't leave loose ends, Village continued, his voice almost gentle. You're a witness to Nadia's betrayal. You can identify the people she's working with. You're also. He paused, choosing his words carefully. You're leverage against me now. They'll assume I owe you. That I might protect you. Which makes you valuable. I don't want to be valuable, I whispered. Too late. He stood, and I realized how much space he took up in my tiny apartment, not just physically, but in some other way that made the walls feel closer. The text you received about your mother wasn't a bluff. They have people watching her facility. They have people watching you. The only reason you're still alive is because they're deciding how best to use you. So what do? He picked up his gun, tucked it into the holster beneath his shirt with practiced efficiency. You accept my protection. Or you die. Probably slowly. Definitely painfully. And your mother dies too, because they'll want you to know it's your fault. That's not a choice. No, he agreed, walking to the door. It's not. He paused with his hand on the doorknob. Pack a bag. Someone will collect you in 30 minutes. Bring nothing electronic, no phone, no laptop. They can track those. Where are you taking me? His eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw something that might have been regret. Somewhere safer than here. Which isn't saying much. Village spread photographs across the safe house table like a card dealer revealing a losing hand. Crime scene shots. Surveillance stills. Bank transfers. Each image another piece of a betrayal that had been months in the making. Her real name is Nadia Volkova, he said, tapping a photo of Nadia, or whoever she really was, boarding a private jet in Kiev 6 years ago. She looked younger, harder, her blonde hair darker at the roots. Daughter of a Ukrainian arms dealer who got himself killed in a territorial dispute. She's been working for the Sokolov syndicate since she was 19. I stared at the photos spread across the scratched wood. In one, Nadia sat at a cafe in Prague with a man whose face had been circled in red ink. In another, she was entering a building in Berlin that Village identified as a known syndicate front. Always alone. Always careful. Never quite doing anything illegal enough to raise flags. She approached me 2 years ago at a charity gala, Village continued, his voice flat, clinical, like he was discussing a business acquisition rather than the woman who'd shared his bed. Beautiful. Charming. From a respectable Danish family, or so her papers said. The background check came back clean because the Sokolovs paid very talented people to make it clean. He pulled out another photo, this one recent, taken through a telephoto lens. Nadia meeting with 3 men in suits outside a Copenhagen office building. The timestamp read 3 weeks ago. She's been feeding them everything. Supply routes, financial accounts, names of every person in my organization, where I keep backup documents, which police officials I pay, which politicians owe me favors. His finger moved across the photos. They've been systematically dismantling my network from the inside while I was too fucking blind to see it. Why not just kill you? I asked, then immediately regretted the question. His smile was bitter. Because dead men become martyrs. Their lieutenants fight over the scraps, go to war, draw attention. The Sokolovs are smarter than that. They wanted me arrested publicly, spectacularly. Wanted my assets frozen by authorities, my operations shut down legally. Then they walk in and absorb what's left. Clean. Legitimate. No blood on the streets to bring the police down on them. He tapped the photo of the penthouse breach. Nadia gave them 6 months of intelligence. Enough to hand the police everything they needed for raids, arrests, seizures. The tactical breach was supposed to be the opening move. I'd be in custody, my organization decapitated, and the Sokolovs would have weeks to consolidate power before anyone even understood what happened. But you weren't there. But I wasn't there, he repeated, his eyes finding mine. Because a waitress I'd barely noticed decided to risk everything for a stranger. I looked at the photographs again, the careful planning, the patient construction of an elaborate trap. How long have you known? That she was lying? Always, on some level. That she was actively trying to destroy me. He gathered the photos back into a folder. About 45 seconds after you whispered in my ear. You loved her. I loved who I thought she was. He closed the folder with deliberate care. The woman I loved never existed. Nadia Volkova created a character and played her perfectly for 2 years. That's not love. That's method acting. He pulled out one final photo, the most recent one. Nadia at a restaurant yesterday, laughing with the same men from the office building photo. Her smile was different here. Genuine. Triumphant. This was her real face, the one she'd never shown him. She's still in Copenhagen, Vilid said quietly. Still playing the grieving girlfriend while the police hunt for me. Still coordinating with the Sokolovs. Still believing she won. The safe house was a third-floor apartment in Vesterbro that smelled like stale coffee and someone else's life. Villids had left me there with 2 of his men stationed outside the door, silent, granite-faced sentries who looked like they'd been born without the ability to smile. I'd been there for 8 hours. No phone. No contact with the outside world. Just me and the sounds of Copenhagen traffic filtering through windows that didn't open. The burner phone on the kitchen counter buzzed at 4:23 p.m. I stared at it for 3 rings before answering, my hands already shaking because nobody had this number. Nobody except. Don't hang up, a woman's voice said. Eastern European accent. The kind of voice that delivered death sentences in multiple languages. I stayed silent. Check your messages. The line went dead. The phone buzzed again immediately. A photo message loading with agonizing slowness on the ancient device's tiny screen. I watched the pixels resolve from the top down, my throat closing around a scream I couldn't release. My mother. She sat in her chair by the window in room 304, afternoon sunlight catching the silver in her hair. The blue cardigan I'd bought her last Christmas, the one she kept forgetting was hers, draped across her shoulders. Her hands were folded in her lap, and she was smiling at something outside the frame. Probably the garden. Or a bird. Or nothing at all. The dementia had made her world softer lately, like she was slowly dissolving into a gentler version of reality. But it wasn't my mother that made my knees buckle. It was the man standing behind her chair. Dark jacket. Face deliberately angled away from the camera, just blurred enough to avoid identification. But his hand rested on the back of her chair, fingers splayed possessively across the fabric inches from her shoulder. The message was explicit. I can touch her whenever I want. The phone buzzed. Text this time. Your mother looks peaceful. The nurses say she's been asking for you. Keeps forgetting you visited yesterday. Dementia is cruel that way. She won't even remember being afraid. My vision blurred. I gripped the counter, my legs threatening to give out entirely. Another message. Village Jacobson is already dead. He just doesn't know it yet. The only question is how many people die with him. Your mother doesn't have to be one of them. Then, tell us where he's keeping you. Tell us his safe houses. Tell us who else knows what Nadia did. Do this, and your mother lives out her days in that chair by the window, watching birds, forgetting your name but feeling safe. The final message arrived with a video file attached, refuse, and we'll make sure her last lucid memory, before the dementia takes even that, is understanding that her daughter's choices killed her. We'll make it slow enough that she has time to know exactly why she's dying. My thumb hovered over the video file. I couldn't open it. I already knew what it would show, proof they could access her room, her floor, her building whenever they wanted. Proof that locks and nurses and security cameras meant nothing to people who eliminated obstacles for a living. The apartment door opened behind me. Village stepped inside, exhaustion carved into every line of his face. He'd been gone for hours doing what I didn't know. He took one look at my expression and crossed the room in 3 strides. What happened? I couldn't speak. Just held out the phone, the photo of my mother still glowing on the screen, that stranger's hand inches from her vulnerable head. He studied the image, his jaw tightening, the only outward reaction. Then he took the phone and read the messages, his expression darkening with each line. They're forcing your hand, he said quietly. They're going to kill her. My voice broke. They're going to kill her, and it's my fault. The Hotel d'Angleterre stood on Kongens Nytorv like a monument to wealth I'd never possess. Crystal chandeliers. Marble floors polished to mirrors. Staff who could smell poverty on you from across the lobby. I walked through those doors anyway, wearing the same server uniform I'd worn the night everything shattered, because it was the only nice thing I owned that didn't have holes in it. Village had tried to stop me. This is insane. They'll kill you. They're already going to kill me, I'd said. At least this way, I make them look me in the eyes first. The elevator to the penthouse suites required a key card. The concierge provided it without question after I gave him the suite number 4012 that had been texted to me an hour ago along with instructions. Come alone. 6 p.m. Bring nothing. Tell no one. I'd told Village everything. The elevator doors opened onto a private hallway with exactly 2 doors. Suite 4012 was at the end, overlooking the harbor. I could see lights reflecting off the water through the window at the corridor's end, Copenhagen pretending to be beautiful while terrible things happened in expensive rooms. I knocked once. The door opened immediately. A man built like a concrete wall looked me up and down, patted me down with professional efficiency, then stepped aside without a word. The suite was obscene. Floor-to-ceiling windows. White furniture that looked like it had never been sat on. Abstract art that probably cost more than my mother's care facility charged for a year. A bottle of champagne sweating in an ice bucket nobody had touched. Nadia sat on the sofa like a queen holding court, wearing cream silk that probably required hand-washing in holy water. Her blonde hair was perfect. Her makeup was perfect. Everything about her was a carefully constructed lie. The man standing by the window turned when I entered. 50s. Gray suit. Face like a hatchet. He smiled, and I understood immediately why Village had warned me this was suicide. Emil Overgaard, he said, his Danish flawless despite the Russian accent underneath. Thank you for coming. I don't care who you are, I interrupted, my voice steadier than my hands. Leave my mother alone. Nadia's smile was razor-thin. How refreshingly direct. The man, Sokolov, I assumed, gestured to a chair. Please. Sit. I'll stand. As you wish. He poured himself champagne with deliberate leisure. Your mother is quite lovely. The nurses speak highly of her. They say she used to be a teacher before the illness took her memories. Don't. My fingernails bit into my palms. Don't what? Acknowledge that she exists? That she's vulnerable? That you're the only thing standing between her and a very unfortunate accident. He took a sip. These are simply facts, Miss Overguard. You want Villits. I get it. But I can't give him to you. I don't know where he is. Nadia laughed, that bright, fake sound I'd heard 1,000 times at the restaurant. You've been in his safe house for 8 hours. Don't insult us. Then you already know where it is. You don't need me. We need you to understand your position, Sokolov said, setting down his glass. Villits Jacobson's protection is temporary. He's a dying empire trying to postpone the inevitable. We, however, are eternal. We will outlast him. We will outlast his organization. And when he finally falls, and he will fall, the question becomes, which side were you on? I'm not on any side. I'm a waitress who overheard something she shouldn't have. You're a witness who can testify that Nadia orchestrated the penthouse breach. You're a liability. He moved closer, and I forced myself not to step back. But liabilities can become assets if they're smart. I'm not testifying against anyone. No, Nadia stood, her silk whispering against itself. Not even to save your mother? You're going to kill her anyway. The words hung in the air like smoke. Sokolov's expression shifted, surprise, maybe, or respect. It was hard to tell on a face that dead. You're right, he said finally. We probably will. But there are many ways to die, Miss Overguard. Quick and painless. Or slow and instructive. I met his eyes and didn't blink. Then make it quick. Because I'm not giving you anything. Detective Larson found me outside my mother's care facility at dawn, leaning against the brick wall where the security cameras didn't quite reach. I'd been there for an hour, watching her window, making sure the stranger from the photo hadn't come back. Miss Overguard, he said, appearing beside me with 2 cups of coffee like we were old friends. You look like you could use this. I didn't take the coffee. Just studied him, mid-40s, tired eyes, wedding ring that he twisted when he talked. The kind of cop who'd seen enough to know how the world actually worked but still pretended the rules mattered. How did you find me? We've been watching you since the restaurant. He set 1 coffee on the wall beside me. You warned Villits Jacobson. We have footage. Audio would be better, but the angle's clear enough. My stomach dropped, but I kept my face neutral. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. He sipped his coffee, casual, like we were discussing weather. You leaned close. Whispered something. 30 seconds later, he left. 5 minutes after that, his girlfriend called 112 reporting him missing. Then our tactical team breached his penthouse and found it empty. Sounds like good timing for him. Sounds like someone warned him. Larson turned to face me fully. Nadia Olson is cooperating with our investigation. She's provided extensive documentation of Jacobson's criminal activities. Financial records. Witness testimony. She's been gathering evidence for months, apparently. Very brave woman. The way he said it made my skin crawl. Too rehearsed. Too clean. What do you want? Your testimony. You're the only witness who can place Nadia at the restaurant when Jacobson fled. You can corroborate her story that she had no knowledge of his criminal activities. That she was as shocked as anyone when he disappeared. I stared at him. You want me to lie? I want you to tell the truth as you understand it. His smile didn't reach his eyes. In exchange, we offer full witness protection. New identity. Relocation anywhere in Europe. Your mother transferred to a facility of equal or better quality, all expenses covered by the state. My mother has dementia. Moving her would destroy what's left of her memory. Leaving her here will destroy more than that. He wasn't smiling anymore. The Sokolov Syndicate has already made contact with you, haven't they? Sent you photos. Made threats. They're very good at what they do, Miss Overguard. And what they do is eliminate problems. So you're offering to make me disappear before they can. I'm offering to keep you alive. He pulled out a business card, pressed it into my hand. Testify that Nadia was an innocent victim. That Jacobson manipulated her. That she's been cooperating with authorities. Do this, and we guarantee your safety. Refuse and... He shrugged. Well, you've seen what happens to people who get caught between organizations like these. I looked at the card. Official Copenhagen police letterhead. Direct line. Emergency contact. Nadia gave them the security code, I said quietly. I heard her. She's not a victim. What you heard was a woman in over her head, trying to protect herself from a dangerous man. His voice was patient, like explaining things to a child. That's what the prosecution will argue. That's what a jury will believe. Especially with your testimony supporting it. And if I testify that she planned the whole thing? Larson's expression shifted, something harder underneath the professional concern. Then you become a hostile witness. Your credibility gets destroyed in court. Your financial troubles become public record. Your mother's facility gets audited and suddenly their license has issues. These things happen. There it was. The threat wrapped in bureaucratic language. You're working for them, I said. The Sokolovs. They own you. I work for the people of Copenhagen. But he didn't deny it. Think about my offer, Miss Overgaard. You have 48 hours. He walked away, leaving the coffee on the wall beside me. I watched him get into an unmarked car where another officer waited. They didn't drive away immediately. Just sat there. Watching. Making sure I understood. There was no way out. The syndicate wanted me silent. The police wanted me compliant. And Villits. Villits was the only one who'd told me the truth. I found Villits in an abandoned warehouse in Stadhavnen, the kind of place where ships used to unload cargo before the city got too expensive for honest work. His men were positioned throughout the building on catwalks, near exits, watching approaches with the efficiency of soldiers who'd done this before. He looked up when I walked in, surprise flickering across his face before he controlled it. You shouldn't be here. Larson. Offered me witness protection if I lie for Nadia. I crossed the oil-stained concrete toward him. The syndicate offered to kill my mother quickly if I cooperate. And you. I stopped a few feet away. You told me the truth. That I'm already dead no matter what I choose. His jaw tightened. Emil. So I'm choosing you. The words hung between us in the dusty air. Around us, his men pretended not to listen, but I could feel their attention sharpening. You understand what that means, Villits said quietly. No going back. No witness protection. No second chances. The police will come after you. The syndicate will hunt you. You'll be marked as mine, and everything that brings down on my head falls on yours too. I know. Your mother is already a target. My voice didn't shake this time. At least with you, I can fight back. With them, I'm just waiting to see which bullet finds me first. He studied me for a long moment, those dark eyes searching for something, doubt, maybe, or fear he could use to convince me to run. He wouldn't find it. I'd run out of fear somewhere between the hotel suite and Detective Larson's coffee-scented threats. There's a difference between courage and suicide, he said. Then teach me the difference. I stepped closer. You said I saved your life. Now save mine. Show me how to stop being invisible. How to stop letting powerful people use me like I'm disposable. Something shifted in his expression, recognition, maybe. Like he saw something in me he hadn't expected to find in a waitress who made minimum wage and couldn't afford her mother's medication. If you do this, he said slowly, you become part of my organization. Not as a victim. Not as someone I'm protecting out of obligation. As someone who's chosen this life knowing exactly what it costs. What does it cost? Everything you were before this moment. He moved closer, his voice dropping. Emil Overgaard, the waitress, dies today. What comes next is someone harder. Someone who can survive what's coming. Someone who can pull a trigger if she needs to. Can you teach me that? I can try. I held out my hand. Then we have a deal. He looked at my hand for 3 heartbeats, then took it. His grip was firm, certain, the handshake of someone sealing a contract written in blood. Your mother, he said, not releasing my hand. We move her tonight. Somewhere the syndicate can't find. Somewhere Larson's corruption doesn't reach. It won't be the facility she's in now. I don't care where it is as long as she's safe. She will be. He finally let go of my hand. And Nadia? I thought about that perfect blonde hair, that practiced smile, the way she'd laughed at her phone while ordering her boyfriend's execution. I thought about the photo of my mother with a stranger's hand inches from her head. Nadia gets what she deserves. Vilid smiled, then really smiled, sharp and dangerous and full of terrible promise. Good. Because I have a plan, and it requires someone Nadia won't see coming. Someone she thinks is too small, too scared, too powerless to matter. I'm not that person anymore. No, he agreed. You're not. He turned to his men, his voice carrying across the warehouse with absolute authority. Henrik, arrange transport for Frau Overgaard. Maximum security. I want her in the facility by midnight and 4 men on rotation watching her 24 hours. Then to me, tomorrow we go after the syndicate. After Larson. After everyone who thought they could use you and throw you away. And Nadia? His eyes met mine, and I saw the same rage I felt burning in my own chest. Nadia, he said softly, we save for last.